ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter number 22, Text number 34. निष्णातं योगमायाशु मुनिं स्वायम्भुवं मनुं यत् आभ्रंशयितं भोगा न शेकुर्भगवत्परं। निष्णातं योगमायाशु मुनिं स्वायम्भुवं मनुं यत् आभ्रंशयितुं भोगा न शेकुर्भगवत्परं। Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thus, Swayambhuva Manu was a saintly king. Although absorbed in material happiness, he was not dragged to the lowest grade of life, for he always enjoyed his material happiness in a Krishna conscious atmosphere. Purport by His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The kingly happiness of material enjoyment generally drags one to the lowest grade of life, namely degradation to animal life, because of unrestricted sense enjoyment. But Swayambhuva Manu was considered as good as a saintly sage, because the atmosphere created in his kingdom and home was completely Krishna conscious. The case is similar with the conditioned souls in general. They have come into this material life for sense gratification. But if they are able to create a Krishna conscious atmosphere as depicted here as prescribed in revealed scriptures by temple worship and household deity worship, then in spite of their material enjoyment, they can make advancement in pure Krishna consciousness without a doubt. At the present moment, modern civilization is too much attached to the material way of life or sense gratification. Therefore, the Krishna consciousness movement can give the people in general the best opportunity to realize their human life in the midst of material enjoyment. Krishna consciousness does not stop them in their propensity for material enjoyment, but simply regulates their habits in the life of sense enjoyment. In spite of their enjoying the material advantages, they can be liberated in this very life by practicing Krishna consciousness. By the simple method of chanting the Hare holy names of Lord, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Text number 35. Ayatayamastasyasan yamaha swantaryapanaha shrunvato dhyayato vishnoho kurvato bruvataha kataha. Ayatayamastasyasan yamaha swantarayapanaha shrunvato dhyayato vishno kurvato bruvataha kataha. Ayatayamastasyasan yamaha swantarayapanaha shrunvato dhyayato vishno kurvato bruvataha kataha. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Consequently, although his duration of life gradually came to an end, his long life consisting of a Manvantara era was not spent in vain, since he ever engaged in hearing, contemplating, writing down and chanting the pastimes of the Lord. Purport. A freshly prepared food is very tasteful, but if kept for 3 or 4 hours becomes stale and tasteless. So the existence of material enjoyment can endure as long as life is fresh, but at the fag end of life, everything becomes tasteless and everything appears to be vain and painful. The life of Emperor Swayambhuva Manu, however, was not tasteless. As he grew older, his life remained as fresh as in the beginning because of his continued Krishna consciousness. The life of a man in Krishna consciousness is always fresh. It is said that the sun rises in the morning and sets in the evening, and its business is to reduce the duration of everyone's life. But the sunrise and sunset cannot diminish the life of one who engages in Krishna consciousness. Swayambhuva Manu's life did not become stale after some time, for he engaged himself in always in chanting about and meditating upon Lord Vishnu. He was the greatest yogi because he never wasted his time It is especially mentioned here, Vishnoho kurvato bruvataha kataha. When he talked only of Krishna and Vishnu, the personality of Godhead. When he heard something, it was about Krishna. When he meditated, it was upon Krishna and his activities. He stated that his life was very long, 71 yugas. One yuga is completed in 43,20,000 years. 71 of such yugas is the duration of life of the Manu. And 14 such Manus come and go in one day of Brahma for the entire duration of his life. 43,20,000 into 71 years. Manu engaged in Krishna consciousness by chanting the Hare, hearing, talking about and meditating upon Krishna. Therefore his life was not wasted, nor did it become stale. Chapter number 36. Sa evam swantaram ninye yuganam ekashaptatim vasudeva prasangena paribhuta gatitrayah. Sa evam swantaram ninye yuganam ekashaptatim vasudeva prasangena paribhuta gatitrayah. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. He passed his time, which lasted 71 cycles of the 4 ages, 71 into 43,20,000 years, always thinking of Vasudeva and always engaged in matters regarding Vasudeva. Thus he transcended the 3 destinations. Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. The 3 destinations are meant for persons who are under the control of the 3 modes of material nature. These destinations are sometimes described as the awakened, dreaming and unconscious stages. In the Bhagavad Gita, the 3 destinations are described as the destinations of persons in the mode of goodness, passion and ignorance. It is stated that in the Gita that those who are in the mode of goodness are promoted to better living conditions in higher planets, and those who are in the mode of passion remain within this material world on the earth or on heavenly planets, but those who are in the mode of ignorance are degraded to an animal life on planets where life is lower than human. But one who is Krishna conscious is above these 3 modes of material nature. It is stated in Bhagavad Gita that anyone who engages in devotional service to the Lord automatically becomes transcendental to the 3 destinations of material nature and is situated in the Brahma Bhuta or self-realized stage. Although Swayambhuva Manu, the ruler of this material world, appeared to be absorbed in material happiness, he was neither in the mode of goodness nor in the mode of passion or ignorance, but in the transcendental stage. Therefore, one who fully engages in devotional service is always liberated. Bilvamangala Thakura, a great devotee of the Lord, stated, "If I have unflinching devotion to the lotus feet of Krishna, then Mother Liberation is always engaged in my service. The complete perfection of material enjoyment, religion and economic development is at my command. People are after dharma, artha, kama and moksha. Generally they perform religious activities to achieve some material gain, and they engage in material activity for sense gratification. After being frustrated in material sense gratification, one wants to be liberated and become one with the absolute truth. These 4 principles form the transcendental path for the less intelligent. Those who are actually intelligent engage in Krishna consciousness, not caring for these 4 principles of the transcendental method. They at once elevate themselves to the transcendental platform, which is above liberation. Liberation is not a very great achievement for a devotee, to say nothing of the results of ritualistic performances in religion, economic development or the materialistic life of sense gratification. Devotees do not care for these. They are situated always on the transcendental platform of the Brahma Buddha stage of self-realization. Next, number 37. Sharira manasa divya vaiyashe yecha manushaha bhautikascha katam klesha bhadante harisamshrayam. Sharira manasa divya vaiyase yecha manushaha bhautikascha katam klesha bhadante harisamshrayam. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Therefore, O Vidura, how can persons completely under the shelter of Lord Krishna in devotional service be put into miseries pertaining to the body, the mind, the nature, and other men and living creatures. Purport. Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Every living entity within this material world is always afflicted by some kind of miseries pertaining to either to the body, the mind, or natural disturbances. Distresses due to cold in winter and severe heat in summer always inflict miseries on the living entities in this material world. But one who has completely taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord in Krishna consciousness is in the transcendental stage. If he is not disturbed by any miseries, or either due to the body, the mind, or natural disturbances of summer and winter, he is transcendental to all these miseries. Text number 38. Yaha prishto munivihi praha dharman nanavidan chubhan dranam varnashramanam cha sarvabhuta itah sadha. Yaha prishto munivihi praha dharman nanavidan chubhan dranam varnashramanam cha sarvabhuta itah sadha. Translation and purport by Translation by Stungi Bhaktam Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. In reply to questions asked by certain sages, he Swayambhuva Manu, out of compassion for all living entities, taught the diverse sacred duties of men in general and the different varnas and asramas. Text 39. Etatta adi rajasya manoscharitam adbhutam varnitam varnaniyasya tat apatyodayam shrunu. Etatta adi rajasya manoscharitam adbhutam varnitam varnaniyasya tat apatyodayam shrunu. Translation by Purport by His Divine Bhakti Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. I have spoken to you of the wonderful character of Swayambhuva Manu, the original king whose reputation is worthy of description. Please hear as I speak of the flourishing of his daughter Devahuti. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Oh, thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the third canto, 22nd chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam entitled The Marriage of Kardama Muni and Devahuti. Chapter 23. Chapter 23, Devahuti's lamentation. Text number 1. Maitreya continue. Okay, let's. Text number 1. Maitreya uvacha pitrubhyam prashtite sadvi patim ingita kovita nityam paryacharat pritya bhavaniva bhavam prabhu. Maitreya uvacha pitrubhyam prastite sadvi patim ingita kovidha nityam paryacharat pritya bhavaniva bhavam prabhu. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Maitreya continued, after the departure of her parents, the chaste woman Devahuti, who could understand the desires of her husband, served him constantly with great love as Bhavani, the wife of Lord Shiva, serves her husband. Purport by His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. The specific example of Bhavani is very significant. Bhavani means the wife of Bhava or Lord Shiva. Bhavani or Parvati, the daughter of King of the Himalayas, selected Lord Shiva, who appears to be just like a beggar, as her husband. In spite of her being a princess, she undertook all kinds of tribulations to associate with Lord Shiva, who did not even have a house but was sitting under the trees and passing his time in meditation. Although Bhavani was the daughter of a very great king, she used to serve Lord Shiva just like a poor woman. Similarly, Devahuti was the daughter of an emperor, Swayambhuva Manu, yet she preferred to accept Kardama Muni as her husband. She served him with great love and affection, and she knew how to please him. Therefore, she is regarded as Sadhvi, which means a chaste, faithful wife. Here, rare example is the ideal of Vedic civilization. Every woman is expected to be as good and chaste as Devahuti or Bhavani. Today in Hindu society, unmarried girls are still taught to worship Lord Shiva with the idea that they may get husbands like him. Lord Shiva is the ideal husband, not in the sense of riches or sense gratification, but because he is the greatest of all devotees. Vaishnavanam yata Shambhu. Shambhu or Lord Shiva is the ideal Vaishnava. He constantly meditates upon Lord Rama and chants Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Lord Shiva has a Vaishnava Sampradaya, which is called the Vishnu Swami Sampradaya. Unmarried girls worship Lord Shiva so that they can expect a husband who is as good a Vaishnava as he is. The girls are not taught to select a husband who is very rich or very opulent for material sense gratification. Rather, if a girl is fortunate enough to get a husband as good as Lord Shiva in devotional service, then her life becomes perfect. The wife is dependent on the husband, and if the husband is a Vaishnava, then naturally she shares the devotional service of the husband because she renders him service. This reciprocation of service and love between husband and wife is the ideal of a householder's life. Text number 2. Vishrambena atma shauchena gauravena dhamena cha shushrusaya sauhrudena vacha madhuraya chabo. Vishrambena atma shauchena gauravena dhamena cha shushrusaya sauhrudena vacha madhuraya chabo. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Bhaktivinoda Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. O Vidura, Devahuti served her husband with intimacy and great respect, with control of the senses, with love and with sweet words. Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Here two words are very significant. Devahuti served her husband in two ways, Vishrambena and Gauravena. These are two important processes in serving the husband or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vishrambena means with intimacy and Gauravena means with great reverence. The husband is a very intimate friend. Therefore, the wife must render service less like an intimate friend. And at the same time, she must understand that the husband is superior in position and thus she must offer him all respect. A man's psychology and woman's psychology are different, and as constituted by bodily frame, a man always wants to be superior to his wife, and a woman as bodily constituted is naturally inferior to her husband. Thus the natural instinct is that the husband wants to post himself as superior to the wife, and this must be observed. Even if there is some wrong on the part of the husband, the wife must tolerate it, and thus there will be no misunderstanding between husband and wife. Vishrambena means with intimacy, but it must not be familiarity that breeds contempt. According to the Vedic civilization, a wife cannot control her husband by name. According to Vedic civilization, a wife cannot call her husband by name. In the present civilization, the wife calls her husband by name, but in Hindu civilization she does not. Thus the inferiority and superiority complexes are recognized. Dhamena cha, a wife has to learn to control herself even if there is a misunderstanding. Sauhrudena vacha madhuraya means always desiring good for the husband and speaking to him with sweet words. A person becomes agitated by so many material contacts in the outside world. Therefore, in his own home life, he must be treated by his wife with sweet words. Text number 3. Vishrujya kamam dhambam cha dvesham lobam agam madam apramatto dyatha nityam tejiyamsham atoshayat. Vishrujya kamam dhambam cha dvesham lobam agam madam apramatto dyatha nityam tejiyamsham atoshayat. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Bhaktivinoda Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Working sanely and diligently, she pleased her powerful, very powerful husband, giving up the all lust, pride, envy, greed, sinful activities and vanity. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Here are some of the qualities of a great husband's great wife. Kardama muni is great by spiritual qualifications. Such a husband is called Tejiyamsham, most powerful. Although a wife may be equal to her husband in advancement in spiritual consciousness, she should not be very vainly proud. Sometimes it happens that the wife comes from a very rich family, as did Devahuti, the daughter of Emperor Swayambhuva Manu. She could have been very proud of her parentage, but that is forbidden. The wife should not be proud of her parental position. She must always be submissive to the husband and must give up all vanity. As soon as the wife becomes proud of her parentage, her pride creates great misunderstanding between the husband and wife, and their nuptial life is ruined. Devahuti was very careful about that, and therefore it is said here that she gave up pride completely. Devahuti was not unfaithful. The most sinful activity for a wife is to accept another husband or another lover. Chanakya Pandita has described 4 kinds of enemies at home. If the father is in debt, is considered to be an enemy. The mother has selected another husband in the presence of her grown-up children. She is considered to be an enemy. If a wife does not live well with her husband but deals very wrongly, roughly, though she is an enemy, then she is an enemy. If a wife does not live well with her husband but deals very roughly, then she is an enemy. And if a son is a fool, he is also an enemy. In family life, father, mother, wife and children are assets. But if the wife or mother accepts another husband in the presence of her husband or son, then according to Vedic civilization, she is considered an enemy. A chaste and faithful woman must not practice adultery. That is a great sinful act. Text number 4 through 5. Savai devarshi varnyastam manavim samanuvratam daivad gariyashah patyur asashanam mahashisah savai devarshi varyastam manavim samanuvratam daivad gariyashah patyur आशाशानां महाशिषः कालेन भूयसा क्षामां कर्षितां व्रतचर्यया प्रेम गद्गदया वाचा पीडितः कृपया ब्रवीत. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. The daughter of Manu, who was fully devoted to her husband, looked upon him as greater even than Providence. Thus she expected great blessings from him. Having served him for a long time, she grew weak and emaciated due to her religious observances. Seeing her condition, Kardama, the foremost of celestial sages, was overcome with compassion and spoke to her in a voice choked with great love. The wife is expected to be of the same category as the husband. She must be prepared to follow the principles of the husband. Then there will be happy life. The husband is a devotee and the wife is materialistic. There cannot be any peace in the home. The wife must see the tendencies of the husband and must be prepared to follow him. From Mahabharata we learn that when Gandhari understood that her would-be husband Dhritarashtra was blind, she immediately began to practice blindness herself. Thus she covered her eyes and played the part of a blind woman. She decided that since her husband was blind, she must also act like a blind woman. Otherwise she would be proud of her eyes and her husband would be seen as inferior. The words Samanuvrata indicate that it is a duty of a wife to adopt the special circumstances in which the husband is situated. Of course, if the husband is as great as Kardama Muni, then a very good result accrues from following him. But even if the husband is not a great devotee like Kardama Muni, it is a wife's duty to adapt herself according to his mentality. That makes married life very happy. It is also mentioned herein that by following the strict vows of a chaste woman, Princess Devahuti became very skinny and therefore her husband became compassionate. He knew that she was the daughter of a great king and yet was serving him just like an ordinary woman. She was reduced in health by such activities and he became compassionate and addressed her as follows. Text number 6. Kardama Vuvacha Tushtoham आद्य तव मानवी मानधायाः तुष्टोऽहम् आद्य तव मानवी मानधायाः शुश्रूषया परमया पराय च भक्त्या शुश्रूषया परमया परया च भक्त्या यो देहिनाम् अयम् अतीव सुहृत्सदेहो नावेक्षितः समुचितः क्षपितुं मदर्थे। कर्दम उवाच तुष्टोऽहम् अद्य तव मानवी मानधायाः शुश्रूषया परमया परया च भक्त्या यो देहिनामयम् अतीव सुहृत्सदेहो नावेक्षितः समुचितः सपितं मदर्थे। कर्दम उवाच तुष्टोऽहम् आद्य तव मानवी मानधायाः शुश्रूषया परमया परया च भक्त्या यो देहिनाम् अयम् अतीव सुहृत्सदेहो नावेक्षितः समुचितः क्षपितुं मदर्थे। Translation and purport by S.B.3.22-37 Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Kardama Muni said, O respectful daughter of Swayambhuva Manu, today I am very much pleased with you for your great devotion and most excellent loving service. Since the body is so dear to embodied beings, I am astonished that you have neglected your own body to use it on my behalf. Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. It is indicated here that one's body is very dear. Yet Devahuti was so faithful to her husband that not only did she serve him with great devotion, service and respect, but she did not even care for her own health. That is called selfless service. It appears that Devahuti had no sense pleasure even with her husband. Otherwise she would not have deteriorated in health. Acting to facilitate Kardama Muni's engagement in spiritual elevation, she continually assisted him, not caring for bodily comfort. It is a duty of a faithful and chaste wife to help her husband in every respect, especially when the husband is engaged in Krishna consciousness. In this case, the husband also amply rewarded the wife. That this is not to be expected by a woman who is the wife of an ordinary person. Text number 7. ये मे स्वधर्म निरतस्य तपः समाधि विद्यात्मा योग विजिता भगवत् प्रसादा तानेव ते मद अनुसेवनया वरुधान् दृष्टिं प्रपश्य वितरामि अभयान् सशोकान्। ये मे स्वधर्म निरतस्य तपः समाधि विद्यात्मा योग विजिता भगवत् प्रसादा तानेव ते मत् अनुसेवनया वरुद्धान् दृष्टिं प्रपश्य वितरामि अभयान् अशोकान्. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Kardama Muni continued, I have achieved the blessings of the Lord in discharging my own religious life of austerity, meditation and Krishna consciousness. Although you have not experienced these achievements, which are free from fear and lamentation, I shall offer them all to you because you are engaged in my service. Now just look at them. I am giving you the transcendental vision to see how nice they are. Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Devahuti engaged only in the service of Kardama Muni. She was not supposed to be so advanced in austerity, ecstasy, meditation or Krishna consciousness, but imperceptibly she was sharing her husband's achievements which she could neither see nor experience. Automatically she achieved these graces of the Lord. What are the graces of the Lord? It is stated here that the graces of the Lord are abhaya, free from fearlessness. In the material world, if someone accumulates $1 million, he is always full of fear because he is always thinking, what if the money is lost? But the benediction of the Lord, Bhagavat Prasada, is never to be lost. It is simply to be enjoyed. There is no question of loss. One simply gains and enjoys gaining. Bhagavad Gita also confirms this. When one achieves the grace of the Lord, the result is called Sarva Dukkhani. All distresses are destroyed. When situated in the transcendental position, one is free from the two kinds of material diseases, hankering and lamentation. This is also stated in Bhagavad Gita. After devotional life begins, we can achieve the full result of love of Godhead. Love of Krishna is the highest perfection of Bhagavad Prasada or divine mercy. This transcendental achievement is so greatly valuable that no material happiness can compare to it. Prabodhananda Saraswati said that if one achieves the grace of Lord Chaitanya, he becomes so great that he does not care a fig even for the demigods. He thinks of monism as hellish, and for him the perfection of controlling the senses is as easy as anything. Heavenly pleasures become to him no more than stories. Actually, there is no comparison between material happiness and transcendental happiness. By the grace of Kardama Muni, Devahuti experienced actual realization simply by serving. We get a similar example in the life of Narada Muni. In his previous life, Narada was a maid-servant's son, but his mother was engaged in the service of great devotees. He got the opportunity to serve the devotees, and simply by eating the remnants of their foodstuffs and carrying out their orders, he became so elevated that in his next life he became the great personality Narada. For spiritual advancement, the easiest path is to take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master and to serve him with heart and soul. That is the secret of success. As stated by Vishwa Chakravarti Thakura, in his 8 styles of prayer to the spiritual master, Yasya Prasadha Bhagavat Prasada. By serving or receiving the grace of the spiritual master, one receives the grace of the Supreme Lord. By serving her devotee husband, Kardama Muni Devahuti shared in his achievements. Similarly, a sincere disciple, simply by serving a bona fide spiritual master, can achieve all the mercy of the Lord and the spiritual master simultaneously. Text number 8. Anye punar bhagavato bhruva udvijrumba vimbraamshitartha rachanaha kim urukramasya siddhasi bhunkshva vibhavan nijadharma dhohan divyan narair duradigan nrupa vikriyabhihi. Anye punar bhagavato bhruva udvijrumba vibhramshitartha rachanaha kim urukramasya siddhasi bhunkshva vibhavan nijadharma dohan divyan narair duradigan nrupa vikriyabhihi. Translation and purport by His Divine Bhakti of Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Kardama Muni continued, what is the use of enjoyments other than the Lord's grace? All material achievements are subject to be annihilated simply by a movement of the eyebrows of Lord Vishnu, the personality of Godhead. By your principles of devotion to your husband, you have achieved and can enjoy transcendental gifts very rarely obtained by persons proud of aristocracy and material possessions. Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Lord Chaitanya recommended that the greatest achievement of human life is to achieve the grace of the Lord, love of God. He said, Prema Prumarto Mahan. To achieve love of God is the highest perfection of life. The same perfection is recommended by Kardama Muni to his wife. His wife belonged to a very aristocratic royal family. Generally, those who are very materialistic or who possesses material wealth and prosperity are unable to appreciate the value of transcendental love of God. Although Devahuti was a princess coming from a very great royal family, fortunately she was under the supervision of her great husband, Kardama Muni, who offered her the best gift which can be bestowed in human life. The grace of the Lord or love of God. This grace of the Lord was achieved by Devahuti by the goodwill and satisfaction of her husband. She served her husband, who was a great devotee and saintly person, with great sincerity, love, affection, and service. And Kardama Muni was satisfied. He willingly gave Lord of love of God, and he recommended that she accept it and enjoy it because he had already achieved it. Love of God is not an ordinary commodity. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was worshipped by Rupa Goswami because he distributed love of God, Krishna Prema, to everyone. Rupa Goswami praised him as Mahavadanya, a greatly munificent personality, because he was freely distributing to everyone love of Godhead, which is achieved by wise men only after many, many births. Krishna Prema, Krishna consciousness, is the highest gift which can be bestowed to anyone whom we pursue to love. One word used in this verse, Nija Dharma Dhohan, is very significant. Devahuti, as the wife of Kardama Muni, achieved an invaluable gift from her husband because she was very faithful to him. For a woman, the first principle of religion is to be faithful to her husband. If fortunately the husband is a great personality, then the combination is perfect, and the lives of both the wife and the husband are not at once fulfilled. Text number 9. Evam bruvanam abalakila yoga maya vidya vichakshanam avekshya gatadir asit samprashraya pranaya vihvalaya gireshat pridhavaloka vilasat dasitana naha evam bruvanam abala yoga maya vidya vichakshanam avekshya gatadir asit samprashraya pranaya vihvalaya gireshat vridhavaloka vilasat dasitana naha. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Bhaktivinoda Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Upon hearing the speaking of her husband, who excelled in knowledge of all kinds of transcendental science, innocent Devahuti was very satisfied. Her smiling face shining with a slightly bashful glance, she spoke in a choked voice because of her great humility and love. Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. It is said that if one is already engaged in Krishna consciousness and is rendering transcendental loving service to the Lord, then it can be supposed that he has finished all the recommended courses of austerity, penance, religion, sacrifice, mystic yoga, and meditation. Devahuti's husband was so expert in the transcendental science that there was nothing for him to argue about, and when she heard him speak, she was confident that since he was very much advanced in devotional service, he had already surpassed all the transcendental educational activities. She had no doubt about the gifts offered by her husband. She knew that he was expert in offering such gifts, and when she understood that he was offering the greatest gift, she was very satisfied. She was overwhelmed with ecstatic love, and therefore she could not reply. Then with faltering language, just like an attractive wife, she spoke the following words. Text number 10. Devahutir uvacha Radham Batadvija Vrshait Amoga Yoga Mayadipe Tvai Vibho Tat Avaimi Bharta Yaste Vidhai Samayah Sakrit Anga Sango Goyad Gariyashi Gunah Prasavah Satinam. Devahutir uvacha Radham Batadvija Vrshait Amoga Yoga Mayadipe Tvai Vibho Tad Avaimi Bhartah Yaste Vyadhai Samayah Sakrit Anga Sango Bhuyat Gariyashi Gunah Prasavah Satinam. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Bhaktivinoda Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Sri Devahuti said, "My dear husband, O best of Brahmanas, I know that you have achieved perfection and are the master of all the infallible mystic powers because you are under the protection of Yoga Maya, the transcendental nature. But you once made a promise that our bodily union should now fulfill, since children are a great quality for a chaste woman who has a glorious husband." Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Devahuti expressed her happiness by uttering the word Bhata, for she knew that her husband was in a highly elevated transcendental position and was under the shelter of Yoga Maya. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, those who are great souls, Mahatmas, are not under the control of the material energy. The Supreme Lord has two energies, material and spiritual. The living entities are marginal energy. As marginal energy, a person may be under the control of the material energy or the spiritual energy, Yoga Maya. Kardama muni was a great soul and therefore he was under the spiritual energy, which means that he was directly connected with the Supreme Lord. The symptoms of this is Krishna consciousness, constant engagement in devotional service. This was known to Devahuti, yet she was anxious to have a son by bodily union with the sage. She reminded her husband of his promise to her parents, "I will remain only until the time of Devahuti's pregnancy." She reminded him of that for a chaste woman to have a child by a great personality is most glorious. She wanted to be pregnant and she prayed for that. The words three means expansion. By bodily union of the husband and wife, their qualities are expanded. Children born of good parents are expansions of the parents' personal qualifications. Both Kardama muni and Devahuti were spiritually enlightened. Therefore, she desired from the beginning that first she be pregnant and then she be empowered with achievement of God's grace and love of God. For a woman, it is a great ambition to have a son of the same quality as a highly qualified husband. Since she had the opportunity to have Kardama muni as her husband, she also desired to have a child by bodily union. Text number 11. Tatreti krityam upashikshya yatopadesham yenaisha me karshito tiriram shayatma siddhyeta te krita manubhava darshitaya dīnastadīṣā bhavanam sadruṣam vichakṣva tatreti krityam upashikṣa yatopadesham yenaiṣa me karshito tiriram shayatma siddhyeta te krita manobhava darshitaya dīnastadīṣa bhavanam sadruṣam vichakṣva. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Devahuti continued, "My dear Lord, I am struck by excited emotion for you. Therefore, kindly make what arrangements must be made according to the scriptures so that my skinny body, emaciated through unsatisfied passion, may be rendered fit for you. Also, my Lord, please think of a suitable house for this purpose." Prabhupada ki Jai. The Vedic literatures are not only full of spiritual instructions but are also instructive in how to prosecute material existence very nicely with the ultimate aim of spiritual perfection. Therefore, Devahuti asked her husband how to prepare herself for sex life according to Vedic instructions. Sex life is especially meant for having good children. The circumstances for creating good children are mentioned in Kama Shastra, the scripture in which suitable arrangements are prescribed for factually glorious sex life. Everything needed is mentioned in the scriptures: what sort of house and decorations there should be, what sort of dress the wife should have, how she should be decorated with ointments, scents and other attractive features, etc. With these requisites fulfilled, the husband will be attracted by her beauty and a favorable mental situation will be created. The mental situation at the time of sex life may then be transferred into the womb of the wife, and good children can come out of that pregnancy. Here is a special reference to Devahuti's bodily features. Because she had become skinny, she feared that her body might have no attraction for Kardama. She wanted to be instructed how to improve her bodily condition in order to attract her husband. Sexual intercourse in which the husband is attracted to the wife is sure to produce a male child, but sexual intercourse based on attraction of the wife for the husband may produce a girl. That is mentioned in the Ayurveda. When the passion of the woman is greater, there is a chance of a girl being born. When the passion of the man is greater, then there is the possibility of a son. Devahuti wanted the passion of her husband to be increased by the arrangement mentioned in the Kama Shastra. She wanted him to instruct her in that way, and she also requested that he arrange for a suitable house, because the hermitage in which Kardama was living was very simple and completely in the mode of goodness, and there was less possibility of passions being aroused in his heart. Text number 12. Maitreya vacha priyayaha priyam anvichan Kardamo yogam astitaha vimanam kamagam kshattas tarhi eva virachikarat. Maitreya vacha priyayaha priyam anvichan Kardamo yogam astitaha vimanam kamagam kshattas tarhi eva virachikarat. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Maitreya continued, O Vidura, seeking to please his beloved wife, the sage Kardama exercised his yogic power and instantly produced an aerial mansion that could travel at his will. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Here the words Yogam Astita are significant. The sage Kardama was completely perfect in yoga. As a result of real yoga practice, there are 8 kinds of perfection. The yogi can become smaller than the smallest, greater than the greatest, or lighter than the lightest. He can achieve anything he likes. He can create even a planet. He can establish influence over anyone, etc. In this way, yogic perfection is achieved, and after this, one can achieve the perfection of spiritual life. Thus, it was not very wonderful for Kardama Muni to create a mansion in the air, according to his own desire, to fulfill the desire of his beloved wife. He at once created the palace, which is described in the following verses. Text number 13. Sarva Kama Dugam Divyam Sarva Ratna Samanvitam Sarvardi Upachayo Darkam Manistambair Upaskritam. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. It was a wonderful structure bedecked with all sorts of jewels, adorned with pillars of precious stones, and capable of yielding whatever one desired. It was equipped with every form of furniture and wealth, which tended to increase in the course of time. Purport. The castle created in the sky by Kardama Muni may be called a castle in the air. But by his mystic power of yoga, Kardama Muni actually constructed a huge castle in the air. To our feeble imagination, a castle in the sky is an impossibility. But if we scrutinizingly consider the matter, we can understand that it is not impossible at all. If the Supreme Personality Godhead can create so many planets carrying millions of castles in the air, a perfect yogi like Kardama Muni can easily construct one castle in the air. The castle is described as Sarva Kama Dugam, yielding whatever one desired. It was full of jewels. Even the pillars were made of pearls and valuable stones. These valuable jewels and stones were not subject to deterioration, but were everlastingly and increasingly opulent. We sometimes hear of castles thus bedecked on the surface of this earth also. The castles constructed by Lord Krishna for his 16,108 wives were so bedecked with jewels that there was no need of lamplight during the night.